What if the man you love isn't passive, weak, or lost, but simply disconnected from something ancient inside him? What if the very power he seeks, the direction he lacks, the purpose he longs for, isn't found in the world, but buried within the unconscious, waiting to be awakened? Carl Jung called it the hero archetype, not a fantasy, not a myth, but a living force that sleeps inside the masculine psyche, a force of movement, of risk, of purpose. But this hero doesn't rise through ego or pride. He awakens when something deeper calls him, something sacred, personal, and often invisible. He might seem distant, disinterested, numb, but what if that numbness is not a flaw, but a symptom? A sign that the soul is starving, that the man has been surviving in a world that never gave him the language for what he truly is. Not just a provider, a protector, a performer, but a seeker of meaning. The hero inside him doesn't rise when he's pressured. It rises when he's invited. Not manipulated, but mirrored. Not demanded, but seen. And the question is, not how do I make him change? But what awakens the sleeping lion inside the man who has forgotten who he is? Keep watching, because what you're about to discover are the 5 hidden forces that awaken the heroic fire within him, and none of them are what you've been told. The first secret, a call that breaks routine. A man doesn't rise into his heroic nature when life is predictable, safe, and sterile. He rises when his world shakes, when something disrupts the cycle he thought was secure. The call can come as a loss, a failure, a betrayal, a woman's silence. It doesn't matter what form it takes, only that it cannot be ignored. Jung taught that transformation begins in the threshold between order and chaos, and the hero is born in that threshold. He may resist it at first, shrink back, distract himself with routine, work, or pleasure. But beneath the noise, the unconscious stirs. The hero does not emerge through comfort. He emerges through confrontation. Something inside him whispers, "There is more. You are not done." And when the outer world no longer reflects who he is inside, the hero begins to awaken. Second secret, a mirror that does not flatter. A man's heroic potential is not activated by admiration. It's activated by reflection. Someone who sees him not as who he pretends to be, but as who he could be. This mirror may come in the form of a partner, a mentor, a child, or even a stranger. It reflects his cowardice and his courage, his fear and his fire. And in that reflection, something ancient remembers. Carl Jung said that the anima, the inner feminine within a man, is often the archetype that brings him toward wholeness. When he meets a woman who reflects not just his desires, but his shadow, he is confronted with his own unfinished business. She doesn't worship him, she wakes him, and that awakening often hurts. The third secret, a task greater than his ego. The hero does not emerge to conquer others. He emerges to conquer himself. He must face something that cannot be won through strength alone, a mission that demands integrity, a purpose that exposes his wounds, a journey that requires sacrifice. Until he finds a path bigger than his pride, he remains asleep, powerful but misdirected. And this task must feel sacred. It must call to something beyond logic. Jung believed that meaning is what saves a man from nihilism. Without meaning, he becomes a shadow of himself, reactive, numb, hollow. But when he finds a cause, a purpose, a direction that aligns with his deepest truth, the hero begins to walk, not with arrogance, but with clarity. The fourth secret, isolation that forges identity. Every man must enter a wilderness, not physical but internal, a psychological space where no one can go with him, where his excuses no longer work, where his past loses power. It is in this space that the boy dies, and the man begins. Jung called this the individuation process, the sacred unraveling of persona, mask, and role. In this solitude, he meets his fear, his rage, his guilt, his longing, and he learns that none of it will destroy him unless he hides from it. The hero is not the man who feels no fear. He is the one who walks with it, speaks to it, and transforms through it. the man who cannot be alone with himself and will never truly lead others. And finally, the fifth secret, a return that heals others. The hero's journey is incomplete until he brings something back. Not glory, not domination, but wisdom, presence, depth. He returns not louder but quieter, not hungrier but humbler. He no longer needs to prove, he simply is. And in his presence, others feel safer to rise too. Carl Jung taught that the masculine soul is not complete through external conquest, but through internal wholeness. And when a man becomes whole, he no longer seeks a woman to complete him. He seeks a partner to walk beside him, not behind him, not ahead of him. That is the hero, the man who has faced himself and chosen to rise. And now perhaps you no longer see him as just distant or distracted, but as a man in waiting. Hey, soul on the edge of remembering, the one you love may not be broken, only uninitiated. And the silence you feel between you, it may not be rejection, it may be the quiet before the fire begins. There's a moment in every man's life when the old story no longer works, when the identity built on proving, performing, and pleasing begins to crack, and in that crack, light enters, not the blinding light of perfection, but the soft, steady light of purpose. Jung called this the emergence of the self, when a man no longer runs from who he is. If he has pulled away, gone silent, or numbed himself, it might not be failure, it might be the threshold, the edge of his own wilderness. And your presence is not to push him forward, but to remain grounded in your own truth. The hero cannot be dragged. He must choose to walk, he may fall, he may resist, he may test everything around him. But if the call is real, and it always is, he will rise, not for you, not for validation, but because something inside him demands it. A force that predates language, a fire that no longer accepts mediocrity, a longing to become what he was always meant to be. You may never witness the full journey. You may only feel its echoes, but never underestimate the role you play. The mirror, the witness, the sacred interruption to his sleep. Jung believed the anima, the inner feminine, was the key to integration. And through your stillness, your truth, your refusal to rescue him, you become the catalyst. He was never waiting to be told what to do. He was waiting to feel what was missing. The moment you stop managing his process, he hears his own silence. And in that silence, the archetype stirs. The hero does not awaken through noise. He awakens through absence, through contrast, through necessity. And when he rises, he comes back different. Not louder, but deeper. Not dominant, but grounded. He doesn't need to be admired. He simply walks with direction. And that direction inspires. Because it no longer comes from ego, but from essence. Let this be your reminder. The masculine soul is not hardwired to avoid growth. It's conditioned to fear vulnerability. But within that vulnerability lies the sword. The path, the throne. The hero does not fight to be seen. He rises to see himself. If something within you stirred, whether you're watching this as a man or someone who loves one, stay. Share this message with those who still mistake numbness for apathy. And return, because in the next chapter, we go deeper into the warrior, the lover, the king, and the shadows that keep them asleep.